Thanks, Morgan. Despite the stock not celebrating this, I think this is actually, as far as I can read from the outside, a good move, and it's the right time to do it. Anybody who has recalled the history of Dara Khosrowshahi and what he did back, as CEO of Expedia, putting together Travelocity and Orbitz and HomeAway and all these brands that seem to be at war with one another. One of the things that I think that they really appreciated that Barry Diller saw him do at IAC was to integrate these businesses, and there's a need to do that now that they've had diffuse marketing campaigns with the different pieces of Uber going their somewhat different ways. And also, obviously, the model, the way it's been advertised versus the way it's being delivered right now, it's not working quite right. We see it in the stock price. It's exactly 2 years on the job. Well, this August will be 2 years on the job, and I think he's feeling the pressure to with the IPO underperforming, to show that he was worth the $200 million that he was paid to come on board.
Jeff, there's a line in the internal email that CNBC's seen that suggests that now he has got the IPO passed, there's more time for him to focus on the core business. Is that therefore a little bit of an admission that perhaps in the last year or so there's not been enough focus there and the core business has slipped as a result?
I think, Wilf, you're exactly right to read that between the lines, is that they had a solitary focus on looking like things are not chaotic, that things are stable as they got through the IPO period, that it didn't look like people were bailing. And surely it didn't look like it was, say, under Travis Kalanick, where people were either bailing or being thrown overboard with all the ethics scandals and cultural issues and bro-culture issues that we're so past that, as far as we know, happily, that it's really now time to do some fine-tuning on the culture. Is that the culture that he walked into was the culture that you often see at so many of the startups that we talk about on air so much, where it's like a hub with spokes coming off of it. That was Travis Kalanick's culture, and they needed to move into periods where you have really great experts, such as a unified marketing approach and other things. But there's a small additional piece to all this, Wilf, that I think that you also put your finger on, is that they're a lot of promising about where we're going to be going with Uber Eats. I think it's like 13-14% of revenue right now, but it's supposed to be this much bigger part of the story. However, that's the most competitive space for them, and that's where they really need to figure out what they're doing there. So he has that reporting into him directly, which is, I think, also a major move, that he's trying to take control of things while he's building up areas of discrete expertise. It's the next stage of life, really, for the business. Long past due.
As a general matter, Jeff, though, what's interesting is you have a company that is, I guess, going to its next stage of maturity and maybe complexity, and they're saying we no longer need a chief operating officer. Now, not every company has a chief operating officer, but it's kind of an interesting move to say we're going to remove a layer of operational management because we're kind of bigger. And I get the idea that Dara would focus more directly on it. He probably doesn't have to spend a lot of time with the IPO or other fundraising anymore, but it's kind of an interesting step.
Well, it's an interesting step right now that just shows that he wants to have some sense of control and mastery of these different businesses, have these issues somehow diffused through him, that somehow there's somebody running cover, that he doesn't have his hands directly on it. While the business is growing considerably, it's still not yet that complicated in terms of the different business units. So he figured, I shouldn't be shielded, this shouldn't be buffered. I should really know what's going on as we go into this next stage. But I think what we'll see is that this is transitional, and he's going to try to get really strong talent into running semi-autonomous business units with a coordinated marketing plan, somewhat matrixed across them. So that's where I guess he's going at this stage. But it's a very good question.
Yeah.